In this video, we'll be going over the list of new features in C# 7 and the ones that we will be going over, and how to access C# 7 and a few quirks to know about when working with Visual Studio Community 2017 or any version, any type of edition of Visual Studio 2017, and when working with C# 7. So with that said, these are the new features. There's a list here, and there's actually a few more, but these are the core ones that we'll be going over. There's actually one that I will not be talking about, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But this is the list. This is the core updates that have been done to C# 7. And when we're going over these concepts, some of them I will use in a context of an application that we have written, and some, for some other ones, I will just be creating short and small examples, brand new examples, and demonstrate the concept in that context. The reason is because some of these concepts, for example, out variables, right? We have been using that in a couple of our applications. So I will use that as an advantage to say, hey, listen, this is the old code that we've written, and this is how you can replace it with the new C# 7 feature, right? And that will kind of give you the idea of how to go from the old to the new. But for some cases, for example, pattern matching, we're not doing any pattern matching in our applications previously, because we never had a need to. So for those, I can't really show you the old way because there is no old way of doing it. So for that, I will create a shorter example, a brand new example, and I will go over it like that to show you the concept and tell you, why it's useful. And so you see the list, out variables, throw exceptions, binary littles and digit separators, expression bodies, ref locals and returns, deconstruction, local functions, pattern matching, tuples. And, once again, I will clarify all this. We'll be going over all of these separately, so do not worry if you're confused about any of the names. Well, the last one is generalized async return types. I will not be discussing this. The reason is because asynchronous programming is something that I can just make a new course about. So I want to cover it in length. And in this short section, I don't just want to throw out all these definitions and just put them in a compact way, because it just won't work. You need to be able to talk about this in length, as I've already mentioned. So asynchronous programming is something that I will leave out of this section. And once we start talking about asynchronous programming, I will start using this new feature, which is generalized async return types. And there we'll understand how it's used and why it's useful. But for now, we'll skip that. And we will only talk about these core changes. So from out variables all the way down to tuples. Those are the core main changes that have been done to C# 7. New features that have been added and certain things that have been edited out and made more compact and more understandable and readable. But that's it for the updates. So next is how to access C# 7 and a few quirks that you need to know about. So the moment you download and install Visual Studio, whether it's Community or any other type of edition, 2017 version, you automatically get the new compiler that can take care of C# 7. So if you're using Visual Studio 2015 or Community 2015, any edition, you won't be able to access C# 7 features because the compiler, IntelliSense and the compiler are older versions, so they don't know how to handle C# 7. So you can make sure that you install the new compiler, and you can install all these new features to be able to make your Visual Studio 2015 work with C# 7. But I won't be going over that because to me that's a bit useless, since you can just download and install Visual Studio 2017. Why make 2015 compatible with C# 7 unless you have a very specific need? In this case, we won't be going over that. I just want to tell you how it works. So once you get the IDE comes with many tools, and we've went over this before. One of the tools is compiler, and the compiler can be an upgraded version or an older version. In 2017, it's the updated version, so it knows how to handle C# 7 code. It's C# 7 enabled. So what I mean by syntax sugar, right? The first line reads, or the first point reads as, most of the features we'll be going over are syntax sugar, so no .NET Framework upgrade is needed. Targeting .NET 4.5.2 will do the job. So syntax sugar is basically a way in which we shorten the code and make it more readable or just more convenient to write for the developer. That's really what it is. And the features, the list of features that you saw, most of them were syntax sugars. So with that said, the compiler will basically take that shorter way and under the hood convert it into a longer version. But we now can write it in a shorter, more compact, readable way. So that's what we'll be doing. So no .NET framework updates are needed, because there's not a lot of core changes in that list, and we can just target 4.5.2 for now. The next thing is certain features are made as separate packages that could be accessed through NuGet Package Manager. What I mean by this is that when the development was being done for the C# 7, some of the features, the development team didn't have the time to finish, so they only included the ones that were stable and they knew that developers can use them and they were dependable. But some of the ones that they didn't have time to, they separated them out from the compiler and made them into separate packages. So they didn't include it as part of the original install. So you have to get them and install them in your project to be able to access them. One of them is tuples, so you can't just use it right off the bat. You have to install another package to be able to use that. But the third point says, as time goes on, these features that are separated from the framework will be merged into it and there won't be a need to hunt for them separately. And that's exactly what's going to happen. As the time goes by, all these updates will be merged into the new .NET framework. So later down the line, whenever it's .NET 4.9 or whatever it is, that will have more and more of the features for C# 7. So you will just need to install the newer IDE that comes down with the compiler, and all that is included in one place. You don't need to install any new packages, any extra packages, none of that headache. For now, we do, and I will show you how, but that's just one thing that's good to know, how it is now and what it will be like in the future. And that's it for now.